Let's unpack a nightmare scenario. Imagine you give a friend a ride. You know he's upset, maybe there's some tension, but you decide to stay in the car.
You're just the driver.
Exactly. Then he jumps out, a fight breaks out, and, well, the worst happens. He kills someone. You never laid a hand on anyone, never even touched the weapon. The question is, are you a murderer?
It feels like the answer should be a clear no, right? I mean, intuitively. But we're looking at a huge Supreme Court judgment from 2025 today, Haribhau v. State of Maharashtra, it says something very different.
This is that classic getaway driver dilemma, isn't it?
It is, but the court's take here is incredibly strict. It all comes down to a legal idea called vicarious liability. And their message was pretty stark.
Yeah.
If you facilitate the mob, you are the mob.
So let's get into the facts, because this isn't a hypothetical. This all starts back in April 1999 in the Pune district at a wedding.
Right. A celebration that goes wrong, a brawl breaks out, and a man named Ankush Golep gets assaulted.
He does the right thing, goes to the police, files a report. He probably assumes that's the end of it.
He would think so. But the very next day, Ankush and 3 others are driving in a Jeep near a place called Naviali, and suddenly, it's an ambush.
It sounds like something out of a movie. 2 motorcycles cut off their Jeep, blocking the road entirely.
And this is where the details become absolutely critical. You have the attackers on the back of the bikes, the ones with the weapons, and then you have the drivers, the appellants in this case.
And their defense was basically, hey, we were just driving.
That was the argument, that they didn't hold the knife or the satyr, which is a kind of heavy chopper they used. They were just present.
Which, is a defense that sounds plausible on the surface. I didn't strike the blow. But from the witness testimony, they didn't just sit on their bikes, did they?
Not at all.
Wow.
And that's the absolute pivot point for the Supreme Court. The survivor said one of the drivers got off his bike, walked to the Jeep, and snatched the keys out of the ignition.
Wow. To stop them from getting away?
Exactly. And then he punched the driver. While the main attack was happening, the drivers were allegedly holding the victim, Ankush, down.
Okay, so that changes everything. Snatching keys, physically restraining the victim. You're not a bystander anymore. You're an active participant.
Precisely. And that brings us to the law itself, Section 149 of the Indian Penal Code. It deals with unlawful assembly. The key idea here is something called a common object.
So if we all share the same criminal goal, we all share the same guilt, regardless of our specific role.
That's how the court saw it. They described the whole group as a single killing machine. The person who blocks the escape is just as vital to the outcome as the person with the weapon.
Without the keys being snatched, maybe the victim drives away. So legally, that action is linked directly to the death.
You've got it.
Right.
But what's really fascinating here is that the first court, the trial court, it didn't see it that way.
They let the drivers go.
They did. Back in 2001, they were acquitted. The court said there wasn't enough proof of their specific intent to kill. It took the High Court and then finally the Supreme Court almost a quarter of a century later to reinstate the conviction, a life sentence.
From walking free to life in prison, that is a massive reversal. What was the crucial piece of evidence that made the Supreme Court so certain?
It came down to 2 words, injured witnesses.
The survivors from the Jeep.
Yes. The Supreme Court placed immense weight on their testimony. The legal logic is actually quite powerful. If a witness has the physical scars from the attack, the wounds, the fractures, their presence at the scene is undeniable.
Right. They weren't just watching from a distance.
They were fighting for their lives. And the presumption is that if you're being attacked, you have a very, very clear memory of who did what, who held you down, who blocked your escape.
So their testimony just carries more weight. It cuts through the technical arguments.
It does. The court basically dismissed the defense's other points, like arguing about the number of people in the group or that the drivers were unarmed. It looked at the coordination. You'd show up together, you block the road together, you attack together. That is a common object.
It's a chillingly clear line of reasoning. Guilt by association isn't just a saying here. It's a legally binding fact.
And that's really the big takeaway. The law doesn't make a distinction between the ride and the weapon if you're both working towards the same criminal goal. You facilitate the crime, you share the punishment.
It leaves you thinking about that incredibly fine line between loyalty to a friend and becoming an accomplice to a crime. At what exact moment does that ride-along turn into a life sentence? Something to think about. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Stay curious.